The project, Virtual Newcastle Gateshead, is a joint venture between Newcastle City Council and Gateshead Council. It is, as you would imagine by the name, a digital virtual model of the city of Newcastle and Gateshead area, primarily created to support planning applications or the assessment of planning applications. Although, as we'll cover a little bit in the sort of latter half of this presentation, we've looked at some other uses over the years. A brief history. I'll try not to delve into too much detail, but the project's been up and running for about a decade in terms of its use within the planning process. It did start around 2008 as a kind of proof of concept and a research project looking at how virtual city models could be used within planning. And since then, since about 2012, 2013, has been actively adopted as a way of assessing major planning processes, planning proposals, sorry, within Newcastle and Gateshead. We have an overall sort of aim and objective to create a definitive city model, something that is representative of the area, as live as it can be, but there are problems and challenges that come with that. But we strive to hopefully reach that goal in years to come. The model itself we refer to as generally a mass model. It's captured using stereo aerial photography, some LiDAR scanning, and we also do some terrestrial laser scanning on iconic sort of features within the city, such as landmarks and the bridges, to help give a sort of sense of place. Because of the nature of the way the model is captured from a plane, we end up with a model that is very detailed in terms of its roofscape, but has no facade information. However, for what we primarily use it for, or have used it for in the past, that meets our needs. The current model itself is 100 square kilometers large and is based on a survey we carried out in 2016. However, we have a second version of the model called a workshop model, which is about 16 square kilometers, sometimes 20, where we've worked closely with the councils to update it with any schemes that are major schemes that are accepted through the planning process. This means what we end up with is a workshop model that actually has a future vision of the city, as it has proposals in there that have been approved but may not have yet been built. The reason we were first interested in the use of virtual city models is to address sort of some inconsistencies and lack of transparency in the planning process, the way that visual assessments were being produced, and the left-hand image there is a kind of testament to a kind of traditional process versus a digital one, where we've taken a digital 3D building, the same proposal, and placed it within the city, a virtual city model. On the right there, you see an idea of our latest, most sort of recent approaches to this. We now have the ability, with advances of technology, to run a larger 16, 20 square kilometer model, and we can fly around that with the stakeholders, with the councils, to carry out the assessment. This means we can capture any number of views. We can also capture moving views as well as static views as well, to get a greater appreciation of the visual impact a proposal might have on the city. As part of these interactive workshops, we can bring in data layers. We do that through a visual process, but as an example of that, in the left-hand image, we can have the ability to, for example, highlight buildings for whatever particular purpose, but in that image there, that's for heritage assessment. So depending on the grade of the building, we can give it a different color, and that can support assessment purposes. As noted already, we also have the ability to bring in buildings effectively from the future to support assessment as well, so that a proposal is being assessed against what should hopefully be there at the time it is likely to be built. Some kind of learnings and challenges from that. Our aims for the future are to improve data integration, to move VNG more towards a more smart city platform where we have live and static data sets embedded within the geometry. To improve accessibility, both to make it more available and easy to access to our stakeholders and planning officers, but also the public through the likes of web portals or web technology and so on. And increase the diversity of use. So look at opportunities beyond planning. Some challenges that we've experienced over the years is buy-in. You get the best results from these partnerships by having this symbiotic relationship with the council. The more the council sort of engage with it, promote it, adopt it, the better it is in terms of easier it is to keep it up to date, to apply it, and so forth. We have a problem which we refer to as the terraced house issue in terms of how we can integrate data at a finer scale. A lot of our buildings, where they are connected to another one, are seen within the data as one single mass. This means that being able to isolate an individual building and attach data to that building or to a level of that building has greater challenges. Sustainability has always been an issue, both from a kind of financial point of view, but also just in terms of maintaining it, keeping the processes and the data up to date, so that we have something that is usable and reflective of the city to support the work we do. And of course, development challenges in terms of there are many things we can do with the model. We've done a few proof of concepts, which I'll flick through in a moment, versus the time and resources available to do so. So just a couple of other applications to highlight around VNG. We've done a few proof of concepts around embedding sensor data so that we can use the model as a contextual data for live sensor data, whether that be something like air pollution, track movement, and so forth. We can run it through web applications, integrate it with other sort of digital twins of infrastructure networks or building information models. We've done past visions. So on the left, we've got an idea for Newcastle from, I think, the 60s called the Time Tech, as well as future visions as well. So we can create these digital twins of different scenarios. And as well as having the digital model, we also have a physical version of it created through 3D printing. And we're currently looking at how we can use that to project data sets onto that model to create something much more live and interactive. So I'm hoping I've been on time. Apology again for any drop-offs. Happy to take questions.
Our first question, which was for yourself, actually, James, it came through, is, are you sharing the model with the emergency services?
No, we have had conversations with the use of the data with the police in the past, from sort of crowd management in relation to, say, James's Park, the football, but no, we're not sharing the data with the emergency services.
Brilliant. And linked question is, how dynamic is the data in the model? How often is data updated, for example?
Yeah, so the presentation mentioned the base data. The majority of the context is from a 2016 survey. We would typically have an update of the base data every sort of 4 or 5 years, but that hasn't happened recently, but would hopefully be doing that soon. However, as I say, we work very closely with the council. When a major proposal is accepted, we get the digital model from the developer, the architect, and we place that within the project. Most have already come through VNG itself, so we already have it. If not, we'll request it on behalf of the council. So we have a fairly up-to-date model in relation to major developments.
Very good. Question here, James, for yourself is, did you use any standards? If so, which ones? And were there any learnings from this?
No, would be the short answer. No, not really. We've dabbled a little bit in the past with certain standards. It's probably something that we should move more to, certainly as we move towards a more smart city platform. But at the minute, no, it's not really heavily based on sort of any current standards as such.
Brilliant, thank you. And a link on James is your data available for public use?
Not in itself. I've got a link that I can provide, which will allow you to download a sample data set to just see how the data is constructed, how it works, and so forth. But the larger data set is not available for public use. Going forward, it's a hope that we would get in a position that will be the case. So we're less reliant on the kind of business models around the data and more utilizing more of the kind of services or additional services that we could build from that.
Very good. And our final question here, James, for yourself is, how does the digital twin cope with showing the user different versions of Newcastle? For example, showing planning applications.
So we have a master model, which will have the base data in, along with any planning applications that have come through this VNG. And then we have the interactive platform, which we can push the master model to. We can control what layers or what data sets go through into that. So any planning applications that have come through previously, whether they've been approved or are in process, can be pushed through or not. When they are pushed through, they're then controlled on layers. So we can toggle those layers on and off. So we can turn things on and off as needed. And that can help in terms of the assessment.